Welcome to your public speaking class. This presentation is to kind of let you know what the class is all about, to give you an idea of the work that you'll need to take care of, and an overview of communication in the process. Whether you're in a traditional class, in a classroom, or online, the course is exactly the same. We cover the same things. The main difference will be whether you video record your speeches or you present them to a live audience. Communicating in this day and age is very, very different than it was in the days of your grandparents. If you go to a restaurant with some friends, will you see this? I think so. Four people together and they're instead texting on their phone. If you go out to dinner, people will once again be communicating with their phone. They may take a picture of what they eat and send it to someone else. People will go to an art museum, and when they're there, instead of sitting back and watching the works of art and trying to figure out the strokes and whatever else has been done, instead they take a picture of it and send it to their friends somewhere else. So we communicate a lot through these telephones. People go to the beach and take pictures of strangers and send them along, people they met and they don't. Kind of a non-human communication setup. And of course, dating is completely and totally confused with it. For example, he's sitting there saying, wow, she really likes me. And she's saying, I get a free dessert and I'm going home. That's not what communication is all about. That is what much of it is turned into today. The basic elements of communication go back all the way to Aristotle and Plato. The idea that literally a good person speaking well for the protection and aid of others is what a speaker was supposed to be. It's what a speaker was supposed to do. So you learned how to speak and handle yourself and debate and discuss in order to do a job protecting you and yours and your community. Does that exist today? Not as much. The communication process itself goes from the speaker through some message to be sent through some means, whatever that may be, to the listener, who then interprets and reacts to it. It takes the full circle to make communication complete. If you're just sending out messages and nobody understands it, obviously you haven't communicated. If the listener doesn't pay any attention, once again, you haven't communicated. If the listener doesn't interpret and react back to you, you have no idea whether your message was clear or not. Classic speech is divided into three major elements. If you had humanities class recently, then you may remember that we talk about in there and in here, ethos, your personal credibility, pathos, emotional appeals, and logos, the logical structure of what you have to say. The credibility factor is the key to successful public speaking. You are answering the questions, is this an honest person that I can be believed? Can I trust this person? Is what they are saying the truth? That's what credibility is all about. In this day and age, we don't trust anybody. Oh yeah, you're safe. Go ahead. Come on, let it go. I won't hurt you, pal. And we keep on getting it, and we keep on being confused by what is supposed to be the truth. Pathos, the emotional appeals from Maslow's hierarchy of needs to the basics of human need fulfillment. The utilization of emotional appeals can be a most effective tool in your speech plan and development, using the emotions of yourself and others to get to your conclusion. Logos is the logical plan of what you're saying. Does your speak make sense? Can the audience accept the message you are delivering? Is the message clear and coherent? Oftentimes, a couple of those are not true. Something is not clear. People talk and you don't really understand what they're trying to say. If that's the case, your message is not going to be clear because it's not coherent. In the old days, they used to say, don't believe any of what you hear and only half of what you see. Well, nowadays, you can't believe any of what you hear or what you see. We know as we look at this image that there's not a bicycle that has no wheels, yet there it is right in front of us. Today, in the world of technology and film technology, anything can take place as a video. Any change can take place in your voice. They can put your face and voice to anything they want. You could turn you into a talking frog. I mean, all these things are possible. And so it makes it really difficult to see how it is to judge the effectiveness of presentations. Read your syllabus. It's in the very first page of your contents of your online Brightspace course. Read that. And then when you have finished reading your syllabus, take a look back at this review. The coursework is spelled out for you. The assignment values, policies, schedules, and deadlines. All these things are there. There's a section in your online course about Ask the Professor. In there, any question you write, I will answer within 24 hours, and that answer will be available to everyone in class. So as the semester progresses, we're going to have a place to look back at the answers to tell. I post everything on the homepage, so it's not going to be about daily assignments. This is about questions you may have about the way things work, what counts, what doesn't count, how it's evaluated. Your speech assignments for this class include the following: an impromptu speech, an informative speech, a persuasive speech, a visual aid or demonstration speech, and a narrative speech. Depending on your particular class, these may vary in the way they are presented and how many of them you will need to do. Each one of the speeches has an outline: the informative speech outline, persuasive, visual aid, narrative, with a total of outline points of 200. You receive points towards your grade for every day and time you attend. This is averaged into your class grade. Online logins are recorded in the same way as your class participation. A missed speech assignment can create a scheduling issue for live classes, but it will most likely, in either online or live classes, lower your achieved point total. Most often this will cost you a letter grade. The speeches are key, they're important. That's what the course is all about. In other words, you don't have a large essay to write. You don't have a series of chapter tests. What you have is basic speeches, 4 solid speeches at least in a semester. And that's what you need to work on: how to prepare, how to present, and how to handle those speeches. The schedule for your assignment completion is on a module page in the online materials. The speech assignment schedule is done by section in class. You'll have the paper in your hand once we make the schedule. The basic rules: take your speaking date as serious as a specific assignment. 2, do not enter or leave class during any performance by one of your fellow students. And 3, while students are performing, no questions, comments, or talking amongst the audience members. There'll be plenty of time for questions once the speaker is finished. It's like this: if you're talking to someone next to you, upsets or makes the speaker nervous, they won't do as good a job as possible. So your job is to not do anything that would affect their grade, okay? So that no one will do anything to affect your grade when you're up there. If you do leave early from a traditional class, then you don't get attendance points for that day. That credibility thing, there are a lot of ways to get it, but I don't know that this particular one will work. For better public speeches, use anecdotes or stories that are funny or touching. Make an outline of your ideas and present them naturally. Don't read word for word. Although reading is acceptable, don't read word for word. Try to look up. Try to be relaxed as much as possible. And remember, the audience is on your side in this presentation. They're all in the same boat. Things to remember about your audience: people can think a lot faster than you can ever talk. The audience has expectations regarding time and content. If you're supposed to give them a 5-minute speech, they're not going to want to listen to a 25-minute speech. Organize your materials so that your class can follow your presentation. Talk to your audience and never at them. I'm sure you've had in your life experience people that talk at you. And it's very, very, very demeaning and irritating. Talk to your audience, just as if they were, whether it's live or online, just as if they're right there. And always look at the audience, or in the case of online, the camera, as much as possible. Be dynamic. Do something exciting up there. Of course, I don't want you to set fire to the classroom or your video, but by all means, find some ways to be different. Find some ways to make your points clear and important. Don't be afraid to let your passions out. Enthusiasm engages people and will always get a positive response from the audience. You cannot expect anyone listening to you feel anything if you don't feel it yourself. Okay, that's important. How can they feel something if you don't feel anything? So if you love animals, for example, show the class something that reflects your love of animals. Oh, well, that's kind of a joke. I hope you get it. Get out from behind the podium. Space equals power. Do not be afraid to use the whole classroom as your stage. If you move around, be careful not to be over-stressed or over-rehearsed. Just try to be natural in any movement you make in front of the class. For demonstrations, you can bring in a video and show people what you can do, or if you can do a backflip from standing still, by all means, go ahead and do it yourself. A live demonstration is always good. Forget that old axiom about never talking about yourself. Tell a little bit about yourself and why you care about this topic. We all see ourselves in others' strengths, weaknesses, feelings, and fears. Nothing is more bonding than when a speaker shares an unrehearsed, natural, innermost thought. It draws you closer to the audience. Connect with stories. If you've got a big ugly cat at home and you want to share a picture of that cat with everybody, I think that would be a fine way to get their attention. Create a dialogue with your audience when you use inclusive words such as you, your, us, and our. Don't be afraid to ask questions like, have you ever felt like this? Or how many of you have had this experience? How many have been there, etc. Variety is in your voice. Be sure there are differences in the volume, pitch, and pacing of your voice throughout the presentation. Timely pauses can be even more powerful as you try to emphasize a point. The key there is to practice your speech material enough to where you know where you can pause, when to get a little louder. You know exactly what it is you're trying to say. Always maintain eye contact. Not like this bird, but just in general. Look at your audience. Look at different elements of your audience. Look from side to side and around. It will help you connect. Always, always, always practice your presentation. Unless you practice, you'll find yourself in a real mess, just like this picture. All the great writing in the world won't be able to help you if you do not practice. That's the key. That's the key to what we do in this class. And then, if you've done everything we've talked about here today, and even more that's in the book or notes, then you'll receive the applause you deserve for your presentation.